This podcast is brought to you by Midwinter. These guys were a startup, an entrepreneurial startup some 10 years ago, way before it was even cool to be a tech startup, and have since then gone on to win every single award year after year after year when it comes to financial advice software. I use them. I know a lot of people that have, and if you haven't already jumped onto the new way of doing business, which is all cloud-based and API, so it all talks to each other, then go look at yourself in the mirror and sort yourself out and go get Midwinter.
Awesome, guys. So welcome to XY Live for this week. Super excited to bring this to you. We've got Cathryn Gross, superstar advisor / personal coach at 12 Wealth, and she's going to share with us this morning a bit of her background and how she integrates overall personal coaching with financial advice in her business. Thanks heaps for jumping on the call, guys. And like I said, love you to get the message out. If you've got other people that would benefit from this stuff, let them know. Tell them to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. So Cathryn, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So just for, I know you're a prominent person within the industry, but just for those of those watching in that haven't met you before, can you just give us a tiny bit about your background, your business, what it's called, who you work with, how long you've been going for?
Yeah, of course. I'm not so sure that I'm prominent. My business is quite new. The name of my business is 12 Wealth. I started in November, so we're a very new business, though I've worked in finance and in and around advice for most of my career. My clients are wealth accumulators, predominantly women. And I think that, to be frank, they're just like me. I'm trying to attract people that are in a similar demographic to myself.
Yeah, awesome. And so before we talk a bit about how you work with your clients, can you tell us a little bit about your background? Because I know you spent a bit of time as a coach. Morning, Clayton. And tell us about what you did, how long you did it for, and what sort of stuff you were doing when you were doing the coaching as well.
Yeah, of course. Look, I spent the first 12 years of my career in investment banking, and I really benefited from an executive coach during some of my time there. Mm-hmm. And when I left investment banking, I was actually asked to come and work with one of the coaching companies that I had benefited from. So I worked for 3 years, predominantly running women's leadership programs and coaching women on a leadership journey. So that was really about giving women the confidence and resilience to step up in financial services.
Okay, and how did that work? Like, were you working, was it mainly one-on-one coaching or group coaching, and how did you run that sort of coaching setup?
Look, the programs I ran were a mixture of both. The groups that we coached were typically 12 to 20, and we would meet every 6 weeks, and then between those group sessions, we would do individual coaching sessions to focus on the content of the group session. So if we were working on resilience, then we, do some coaching around that topic. But often you can't really structure coaching. Often people would walk in with a huge problem, and we would just focus on that. And it was really about helping them manage the corporate landscape and figure out the career that they wanted for themselves and how they could use their strengths to achieve that.
Okay, and so what was the thinking when you obviously decided that you wanted to start your business? And what was the sort of the thought process behind that? Was that a need that you saw, or how did that all come about?
I think it was twofold, Ben. I went looking for a financial advisor about 3 or 4 years ago. And at that time, I'd actually moved out of coaching because although I love coaching, I really missed the markets. I didn't think I would, but I loved the learning, and I loved that every day is different in the markets. And so I started thinking about how I could use my financial services experience and my coaching experience, and financial advice was kind of logical. So this is going back 3 or 4 years ago, I started thinking about how I could get a better feel for what financial advice was. Although I'd always worked in financial services, I'd never seen a financial advisor. I'd never been exposed to them. I'd always worked at the institutional level. So I took a job running a intermediary distribution business and very quickly got to learn a lot about financial advisors and their businesses, mainly staff that I worked with. And that then kind of led me to thinking maybe I need a financial advisor, and I couldn't find one that met my needs. I ended up finding one, but even though I knew 400 or 500 advisors, or I didn't know them well, but I kind of knew what they were doing, most of them didn't have the business model that suited what I was looking for. So that kind of, started my business plan and that made me start studying and kind of, to be honest, put a rocket into the business plan and got me moving.
Okay. And so tell us, sorry, go on.
Yeah, my financial advisor really helped me with that too. So I've got a great financial advisor, and he helped me realise that I did sort of have the wherewithal, and helped give me the confidence that I should just start my own business, not go and work for someone else.
Yeah. That's awesome. Like, so you had a coach and benefited from getting coached, went into coaching, and then wanted some financial advice, got a financial advisor, and then decided to just merge the two sort of together.
That's right.
Awesome. So, so tell us then. So, what does your sort of service look like, and what is it that you're trying to achieve when you work with your clients?
Look, I think fundamental to my belief system is, at the base of it all, I think we all just want to help people. And I really do think that for us to be wealthy and have a lot of financial wealth, we have to be managing our human capital really well. And if we don't get that right, then we won't be happy with our wealth, but we're also unlikely to be as wealthy. So if we can be using our strengths well and managing ourselves well, then the whole package is better. So when I first sit down with my clients, right up front, I tell them that, and that just puts the idea that I'm a sounding board for more than money on the table really early. And it's sort of it's not like I don't say this is a coaching conversation. That's not what I say.
Yes.
Sort of really talk about how the two are integrated, and it means that the initial meeting can start out being without the clients even necessarily meaning for it to be. It means a lot of it is a coaching conversation in that first initial meeting.
And so what's the idea that you're trying to work through with clients when they say, what do I get as with my relationship with you? Obviously it covers money, but what's the conversation that you have?
Well, the conversation is different for each client. I think because I've spent a lot of time coaching and working with people, I'll very quickly try and assess, the sort of person the client is in the first meeting. So if someone is, a natural connector or a more emotional personality, then there'll be more of a focus on their emotional needs in that first meeting. So it could be that they're a client. Every client is different, so it's hard for me to, that's the nature of, I guess, coaching and active listening. There's not a formula.
Yes.
But if the client has just been through a divorce and doesn't know what their future looks like, then there'll be a lot more working around, what their strengths are, working out, how they see their life in the next 10 years, breaking down the steps to get there, helping them build up their confidence, reintegrate with their network and use their network to get a role.
Yeah.
It really depends on the person. But it's about, or it could be that the client runs their own business and they just want a sounding board to work out how they deal with the problem with staff, how they give their staff more professional development, where to start looking for that. It's very different. It's client by client conversation.
Okay, and so, it is fairly different, but is there an ideal sort of outcome that you would like to deliver on for your clients in the first 12 months or however long it takes that you work together?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that each of my clients, I have a formal meeting with each quarter. in the first 12 months, the idea is that the initial meeting is face-to-face. And then in the first 12 months, each of those 4 meetings may be face-to-face. It depends on the client. That's optional. After that, it will be a phone check-in. So just by having that giving that structured quarterly meeting kind of helps provide logical value for the client.
Yes.
And then I think for clients to really value what you do, there needs to be that sort of logical value, which is, the financial plan, the meetings, what can I see? But there's got to be that emotional value. And the emotional value is partly where the coaching kicks in, but it's also about trust.
Yes.
So, building trust, I guess in some ways I'm using coaching to help build trust as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it goes both ways. It's good for me, but I think it's also good for the client.
Mm-hmm. And so what is I know we had a chat about this, but what does a typical review meeting look like? So you do quarterly catch-ups with your clients. What do you go through, and where is the line when it comes to financial advice and the personal coaching type work that you do?
I think they're quite intermingled. And to be completely frank, because my business is only 6 months old, this could change. I think obviously in the first 12 to 18 months, there's a lot of heavy lifting in the financial advice piece of it.
Yes.
So the way I kind of see it is there'll always be bits of financial work to do, but part of justifying and outlining your ongoing advice fees is the coaching piece. So I think longer term, coaching will play an ongoing role as well. But in terms of how I run my quarterly meetings, which is what you asked, I've only, obviously the business is 6 months old, so I haven't done hundreds of them. But what we typically do is I use a coaching framework to run them. So there's a coaching model that I call Happy, Sad, Happy, just because you remember, and that kind of starts out with, tell me what's been going well in the last quarter. It opens people to talk about anything. It's not about that finances at all.
Yes.
And that could be that they've got a new boyfriend, they've got a new job, they've bought a house, they've found a property they want to buy, which becomes financial. Or it could be that they've managed...
The boyfriend part.
Yeah. And then I'll typically say, okay, and what's not been, what hasn't gone well? Let's talk about that. And that could be, once again, it could be financial. They told me that they'd stick to a budget and they haven't been. And let's get to the bottom of why that might be.
Yes.
Or it could be emotional. My marriage is falling apart. What do I need to do? And then it's about working, once we've got everything on the table, trying to give them some tools to make them feel better. So happy again. So, you started well, you've sort of taken this roller coaster down to what's not so good. And now how can I help you feel better again?
Yeah, okay. And do you find that those things are typically more money related or more personal related when you have that conversation?
It's a big mix.
Yeah.
So, it really depends on the client.
Yeah.
Once again, it's and the level of trust you've built with the client.
Yes.
And what the client has come into the relationship expecting. So some people really buy into the coaching idea. And, they see value in that. And that emotional value is part of why they're happy to pay the fees.
Yes.
Others, it's all about, others definitely see me more as someone that brings together 7 super funds, fills in their forms, manages their money. And that's okay. I'm not going to try and be a coach to someone that doesn't feel like they need one, because they won't back that.
Yeah, okay. So just, one last question on that before I turn it over to Clayton. But have you had any clients push back on the coaching and say, well, okay, that's great, but really I don't want that. I just want the financial side taken care of. And then how does that all sort of fit together?
That hasn't happened
No.
yet. That said, I'm sure it'll happen at some stage. And I'll need to judge at the time I'm happy with not providing a service that costs that effective. I'm happy to provide the service the client needs.
Yes.
But at that point, that's going to happen more in the initial advice meeting, in that initial engagement.
Yeah.
And I would need to make a judgment on whether we're going to work well together. And I don't know yet is the answer, because it hasn't happened.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Well, look, I'm just going to turn over to Clay for some follow-up questions. Guys, just for everyone listening in, if anyone's got any questions for Cathryn that they want answered, you just type them in the question box on the right-hand side of the page there, and we'll come to them shortly.
Excellent. Well, hi, Cathryn. I'm just stepping in for Phil. Look, first of all, before we get started, 6 months into starting my business, hired an executive coach and a leadership coach, and it changed my life. It was one of the best things I've ever done. So to see someone doing what we do and then doing that skill as well, absolutely phenomenal. Considering this whole XY experiment is basically about finding out what other advisors are doing besides financial advice, besides that money piece. So to hear that you're doing that is, first of all, I'd like to commend you on that. That's awesome. So with Adrian, he wants to know how far are you going with helping someone develop their human capital?
I think when someone's developing their human capital, if you're coming at it from a coaching ethos, I think it's about having a toolkit that you can draw on that's different for each person. So most of my clients are women. A lot of them have either been through divorce or been through something that's kind of caused them to come and see a financial advisor. And they're not actually coming to me to be an executive coach. They don't actually realise they have a need at that point. But I use the coaching toolkit to help them. So it might be that they lack confidence. Or trying to work out what their future now holds because they've had a major change in their life. So I might start out doing some work around their strengths, and I use a tool called Strengths Finder for that, which you might know, Clayton, if you've worked for the coach. If they're having trouble with relationships, having trouble with networking, then I'll work with them around building a networking plan. To try and on-road them back into the workforce.
Awesome.
I'm not actually I'll get them thinking about the sort of study they could do if they need to, how they can fit it in their life, the practical stuff. So it's quite pragmatic. It's not, I'm not a counsellor. It's a lot more pragmatic than what.
Is there career? Is there, obviously you spoke about work quite a fair bit, and work takes up 95% of our clients' lives. So to be able to help them with that is really cool. So with Phil, he says he's interested in what's a rough breakdown of your fees if you're meeting with the client 4 times a year, because obviously that's a 1-to-1 high time or high expense on your time. So. Yeah, high touch. So what's sort of a rough? You don't have to go into specifics,
I charge my
of course,
clients
but just sort of high
well.
level.
So they're invoiced around the time of that quarterly meeting. My client, as I said, my business is only new. I've only got 14 clients, so that might change dramatically. At the moment,
Yes.
none of my clients are paying me under $5,000 a year, and the biggest client's paying me $12,000 a year. But, I'm not looking to build a business with 200 clients.
Right.
So I'm trying to build a business with about 50 clients that works with my stage of life and allows me to achieve what I want out of life. So the high touch model actually allows me to feel like I'm really helping my clients. But it also means I have to be very careful about which clients I take on.
Yes, absolutely. Because so you're looking to do probably around 50 clients, is that right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. And what's been the hardest thing about starting your business?
Look, I think at the moment it's just workload, And I obviously haven't been a financial advisor before. So the hardest thing about starting my business was finding the right mentor and dealer group. Licensee, to be frank. I kind of knew that if I was going to start my own business, I needed to surround myself with good people. And I've definitely found that. So that was really lucky. The administration and compliance, everyone says it, but I can't wait to have some staff who can help me with that.
Awesome. Just as a follow-up, who's your licensee, Cathryn?
Yeah.
I'm with the Wealth Network. They're a new group. I'm their first corporate authorizer.
Awesome.
Oh, cool. We've got a couple more questions here. This one's from Mark. Do you use any tools to help clients with their budgeting and cash flow?
I know that I've heard Money Brilliant. It's very good. I haven't looked at it yet. But yeah, I'm using Xero.
Okay. And this is a question from Jenny. Is the money conversation easier with women or more complex?
I don't think it's any different. I think if I just step back into coaching for a minute, I think that everyone has a different operating style. And the operating style drives the money conversation more than the woman versus man. The other thing I should say, Jenny, and Ben knows this, is the majority of my clients have been referred by my hairdresser. And that is really different, right? So cool. I think that is because I'm a woman. And these women really trust their hairdresser, so she's a trusted referrer, and then they trust me. So, yeah, that I think is very different. I don't know many barbers refer clients to you, Ben.
No, yeah, I'm definitely going to have a solid chat with my barber next time I see him.
Maybe a beard barber. Yes. There's another Phil question from Phil. Looking back in the last 6 months in business, would you have done anything different?
Not yet. Not yet. But I think if you ask me that in 6 months, I'll say definitely. I just not yet is the answer to that. I feel like I've been through a mixture of luck, and I'll call it wisdom. I feel like I've landed. I'm really happy with where I'm at. I feel really nurtured by my licensee, and I feel like the clients are coming. So it's, and there's been no big blow-ups yet.
It's always good. Cathryn, I just got a question for you. So I know, so you work as a completely fee-only advisor, from what I understand.
Yep.
So just given we got a little bit of time, I'm interested. What's your approach when it comes to that, and the discussions that you have with clients? And have you had any pushback or any difficulties, or any tips for anyone thinking about maybe transitioning their business that way over time?
Yeah, look, you definitely have to have those conversations. I deal with them differently in each circumstance. Mm-hmm. There's been a couple of clients who I haven't taken on because they've tried to negotiate on my fees up front.
Yeah.
And I don't think that kind of indicates to me that they're unlikely to value my work on an ongoing basis.
Sure.
Which means I'll do a heap of heavy lifting for them in the first 12 months, and then they'll probably leave. And to be frank, I'm not going to have value for money from my clients in the first 12 months. It comes later.
Yes.
But the conversation is very much around my business model. So I explain to them that I am a high touch business model.
Yes.
I am only looking to have 50 clients. That means I have to be selective about who I take on. I explain that I see myself as more than a financial advisor, that I'm also a sounding board and a coach.
Yeah.
And I completely understand if that doesn't meet their needs. And I also explain, I do talk through, if I think it's worth it, the fact that they're going to be paying 20% less for their insurance, that they're not going to be paying funds under advice fees, and I give them an idea of what that is in dollar terms based on what they've told me. But to be frank, I've only had one or two people who I think have not signed up because of fees.
Okay. And any tips for anyone thinking about maybe moving their business that way over time? So anything to look out for, or?
It's a good question, Ben, but I don't know if it's one I can answer because I've never been a financial advisor that's run a business earning referral fees or commissions. So I feel like it's hard for me to provide advice on how to transition a business.
Yes.
You know, I think, look, I don't feel like I can provide valuable advice.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's fine. I just got another question. If someone was thinking about maybe broadening out their service offering for their clients and moving down a similar path to yourself in integrating, you know, personal coaching alongside financial advice, what would be the pathway? What would be, you know, the either advice that you give them? Do you think it might be better to partner with a coach, or do you think it's, you know, that they would need to have that conversation themselves? And then, yeah, what should they do to go down that path?
Look, I think it depends on the individual. Obviously, I was a coach first, but I also went away and did a coaching accreditation, which gives you the toolbox that you can draw on and understand people and coaching conversations better. I think it really helps if you've had an executive coach, so you actually understand the value proposition, which I know Clayton does. But I think it also depends on your target market. So my target market is wealth accumulating women. I've obviously seen the benefit of coaching for professional women in that space, which makes it easy to use coaching without actually saying, I'm coaching you today. You know, it just becomes part of the value proposition without it even needing to. So I think you could go down the path of partnering with a coach and working together, and I could see that working quite well. But then you've actually got to have the conversation about, I think you need an executive coach, you know, and it's a slightly different conversation.
And do you think that would in any way, apart from the difficulty with the conversation, detract from the relationship with the client if you've got maybe had a separate person coaching with their personal goals? Does that make sense in terms of the question? So if someone was thinking about maybe integrating that into their service offering and partnering with the coach to work with their clients, do you think, you know, that might detract from their relationship?
I don't think, not necessarily. I think it's about playing to your strengths. You know, I think that like any principal advisor, if you're referring a client to a fantastic mortgage broker or a fantastic lawyer or a fantastic accountant, that actually helps build trust and rapport between you and your client. So I think it can work to refer to an executive coach as part of your value proposition. I think it can work. Obviously not what I'm doing, but I think that in building my business, I kind of knew I was drawing on two things. One was executive coaching, and the other was, you know, my network. And I kind of knew that if I drew on those two things, I'd attract clients. So, I think it depends on how you're looking to attract clients and how you want to run your business.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome. Well, Cathryn, I'm just mindful of everyone's time. We've just hit the 9:30 mark. But I just want to say massive thank you for joining us today and sharing, you know, some of your experience. I hope everyone's found this valuable. Guys, for everyone listening in, just a reminder for people that maybe aren't on the call, let them know that this stuff's happening every fortnight, same time, same place. Share out the link with them. They can, if they jump on the XY Advisor mailing list through the XY Advisor website, they'll get notified when these things are on. And you can also subscribe to the YouTube channel And also watch, if for the people that haven't seen some of the ones that we've done in the past, the replays are all up there live now as well. So awesome, guys. Thanks heaps for joining us, and we'll see you in a fortnight. We're super excited for the next one. We've got Paul Gilbert, who is a social media specialist for David Koch's business, Pinstripe Media, and he also runs a private consulting firm for personal branding. And I caught up with Paul a few weeks back, and I've integrated already some of the tips that he's given me, and they've just worked really well. So I think clearly everyone here is quite social, so I think you guys will get a lot out of it. Look forward to seeing you in a fortnight's time. And thanks again, Cathryn, for joining us. Anyone that wants to connect with Cathryn, LinkedIn, would LinkedIn be the best way to connect, Cathryn?
LinkedIn's probably the best place for me. I'm on 12 Wealth is on Facebook, and I'm on Twitter. So.
There you go. Throw Cathryn a like on Facebook. Cool, guys. All right. Well, thanks heaps for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, Clayton. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
See you, Cathryn.